Elias was a man who had forgotten how to look up. For 40 years, he had been a botanist, a man whose entire life was dedicated to the study of living things. He lived in a sprawling, gray city where the sky was perpetually choked with the smoke of progress and the noise of rushing cars. Somewhere along the way, amidst the endless filing of research papers, the pressure of deadlines, and the quiet, creeping sorrow of a solitary life, Elias had lost his vision. He had become an expert at categorizing life, but he had entirely forgotten how to marvel at it. He could look at a leaf under a microscope and tell you its exact cellular structure, its genus, and its species. He could explain the chemical reactions that caused chlorophyll to convert sunlight into energy. He knew the mechanics of the world perfectly, but his soul had gone entirely blind to its magic. To him, the world had become a cold, calculated machine, a random collision of atoms drifting through an indifferent universe. Every morning, Elias woke up with an invisible weight on his chest. His heart was tired. His inner world was a constant state of pressure, filled only with tasks, worries, and the heavy burden of merely surviving another day. He walked past the small flower boxes on his street without a glance. He ignored the sparrows that gathered on the telephone wires. He was moving too fast to feel the morning air, too fast to see the light shifting across the pavement, too fast to let his soul breathe. He was spiritually homeless in a world he studied every single day. But the Creator, in his infinite and patient mercy, does not allow a weary heart to stay wandering in the dark forever. He had left traces of himself everywhere, and he was about to draw Elias's eyes upward. That IT began with a mandatory field expedition. Elias was sent to the deep, ancient forests of the northern mountains to document alpine flora. He packed his bags with a heavy sigh, viewing the trip not as an adventure, but as another burdensome obligation. After 2 days of travel, he arrived in a valley completely untouched by the frantic pace of the modern world. There were no cell phone signals here. There was no traffic. There was only the vast, overwhelming architecture of nature. Giant pine trees lifted their branches like arms raised in quiet worship. Mountains stood like ancient sentinels, their peaks dusted with snow and veiled in shifting clouds. On his first morning in the valley, Elias stepped out of his small wooden cabin. The hush of the morning was profound. It wasn't the dead silence of an empty room. It was a living, breathing quiet, a pregnant stillness. He picked up his notebook and began to hike up the rocky trail, his head down as usual, his eyes scanning the dirt for specimens. Hours passed. His legs grew tired, and his breath grew short. He sat down on a moss-covered boulder to rest, dropping his notebook beside him. As he sat there, wiping the sweat from his brow, a sudden sound pulled his attention away from his tired thoughts. It was the sharp, piercing cry of an eagle. Elias lifted his head. High above the rugged peaks, an eagle was riding the wind. Elias watched it, intending to look away, but something held his gaze. He watched the massive bird navigate the invisible currents of the air with impossible precision and effortless strength. It didn't flap its wings in a panic. It simply stretched them out, trusting the thermal updrafts to carry it higher and higher. For the first time in decades, a thought pierced through Elias's cynical mind. Such strength, such perfect design. He lowered his eyes from the sky to the ground directly in front of his boots. There, pushing its way through a tiny crack in the solid, unforgiving rock, was a small, fragile green shoot. It had no soil to speak of. It had every reason not to exist in such a harsh environment. Yet, it had risen silently, with a quiet persistence that defied logic. Next to it, a single alpine flower had opened its petals, boasting a shade of blue so vibrant, so tender, that it brought a lump to Elias's throat. How impossible, he thought. How incredibly delicate. Elias leaned closer to the flower. He did not pull out his magnifying glass. He did not reach for his notebook to write down its Latin name. Instead, he just looked at it. He noticed the delicate veins running through the petals, the perfect symmetry of its shape, the way it turned its face precisely toward the morning sun. He remembered the eagle in the sky, and then he looked at the flower on the rock. The contrast struck him like a physical blow. The same world that held the terrifying, majestic strength of the eagle also held the impossible, gentle delicacy of this tiny bloom. Suddenly, his soul began to remember. The ice that had formed around his heart over 40 years began to crack. The thought struck him with the force of a revelation. This is not an accident. This is not a careless universe. Elias realized that the detail in the flower was not there merely to be admired as a biological anomaly. It was a sign. It bore the touch of profound wisdom. It bore the mark of deliberate intention. It bore the signature of God. Creation was not trying to glorify itself. It was pointing past itself. The flower, the eagle, the quiet persistence of the roots, the rhythm of the wind, they were all preaching. They were all whispering and sometimes shouting that the Creator was glorious. The words of an old psalm he had heard as a child echoed in his mind. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Elias fell to his knees on the damp forest floor. The weariness of his life, the grief, the pressure, the frantic rushing seemed to evaporate into the cool mountain air. Wonder began to rise in his chest. But it wasn't just a shallow wonder, a fleeting fascination with a pretty view. It was a holy wonder. It was the kind of wonder that acts as a bridge. He realized he had spent his entire life studying the painting while completely ignoring the artist. He had been a tourist in creation, taking notes, taking pictures, categorizing the gifts, but never lifting his heart to the giver. As Elias knelt there, the world around him transformed. He was no longer just looking with his natural sight. His spiritual perception had been awakened. He watched a hummingbird dart between the blooming bushes at the edge of the clearing. It moved with an impossible delicacy, its wings a blur of iridescent green and gold. He thought of the sheer intelligence required to engineer such a creature, the metabolism, the spatial awareness, the aerodynamics. Someone thought of this, Elias realized. Someone designed this. Someone delights in beauty. Someone is wise beyond human language. The invisible qualities of the Creator were suddenly clearly seen through what had been made. The forest let Elias glimpse God's power in the towering pines, his intelligence in the hidden growth of seeds, his generosity in the abundance of water flowing down the mountain stream, and his patience in the slow, steady turning of the seasons. He remembered the words of Christ. Behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Elias looked at the tiny sparrows hopping through the underbrush, completely oblivious to the anxieties that plagued human existence. They were not worried about tomorrow. They were perfectly held in the care of the Father. And then, the deepest, most healing truth of all washed over him. Elias began to weep. The tears were not of sorrow, but of a profound, overwhelming relief. If God placed such infinite detail into a single feather on a sparrow's wing, if God poured such tender care into the petals of a flower that bloomed in a hidden mountain pass where no human eye might ever see it, if the Creator engineered the massive wings of the eagle and the quiet resilience of a seed, then how could my life be meaningless to him? For years, Elias had viewed himself as a forgotten piece in a careless machine. He had felt small in the wrong way, overlooked, insignificant, spiritually homeless. He had let his failures, his loneliness, and his insecurities tell him that his life was an afterthought. But as he looked at the beauty of the world around him, creation preached a different message directly into his weary soul. The beauty was not mocking his pain. It was reminding him of the Father. It was telling him that reality is not ruled by chaos, but by a wisdom that sits at the center of all things. I am not less considered than a sparrow, Elias whispered into the quiet woods. I am not more accidental than these alpine lilies. If his hand is this detailed in nature, then surely his hand has not become careless where my story is concerned. If the God who upholds the stars and forms galaxies also took the time to paint the dawn and clothe the fields with such staggering artistry, then he was surely not helpless in what Elias was facing. The Creator's love rushed in to correct the creature's shame. Elias felt, for the first time in his life, entirely seen, deeply known, intentionally made. The morning stretched into the afternoon, and Elias remained in the forest. But his posture had changed. He wasn't working anymore. He was worshiping. His wonder had successfully traveled upward. The beauty had caught his attention, and it had turned into reverence. The amazement had moved into adoration. He prayed out loud, his voice joining the quiet symphony of the wind and the trees. "Heavenly Father," Elias spoke, the words feeling foreign but perfect on his tongue. "I do not want to hurry past your world anymore as though it were empty. Thank you for the skies that shift with light. Thank you for these trees that lift their branches without fear. Thank you for the simple miracle of breath. You are not clumsy with creation, and you are not clumsy with my life." He asked God to heal the dry, overstimulated places in his heart. He let the wind preach calm to his nervous system. He let the steady mountains preach steadiness to his anxious mind. He let the birds preach trust. The ordinary world was carrying the evidence of a loving God, and Elias was finally still enough to listen. He realized that gratitude had woken up inside him. The world trains a person to only notice what is urgent, dramatic, or broken. But Elias was suddenly thankful for the smallest mercies, the scent of the pine needles, the cool breeze against his face, the warmth of a single patch of sunlight breaking through the canopy. He was no longer consumed by what he lacked. He was overwhelmed by what he was freely given. When Elias finally descended the mountain trail back to his cabin, he walked differently. His gaze was cleaner. His attention was holier. His responses were slower and gentler. He carried the beauty of God inside him like a hidden melody. He stayed in the valley for 2 weeks, finishing his research. But he did not work as a mere scientist. He worked as a worshiper. When he studied a leaf, he praised the intelligence behind it. When he documented a root system, he marveled at the hidden processes of God. He lived like a child again, asking questions, noticing the miraculous in the mundane, entirely unashamed of his awe. Eventually, it was time to return to the gray city. As the train carried him back toward the concrete and the noise, Elias did not feel the old dread returning. He knew the city was loud, and he knew the people were rushing. But he also knew a secret now. The Creator was there, too. On his first morning back in the city, Elias walked to his university office. The streets were packed with people rushing to work, heads down, phones in hand, swallowed by the pressure of the day. Elias stopped at the corner of a busy intersection. He looked up. There, breaking through the smog, the morning sun was casting a brilliant, golden light against the side of a glass building. A gentle breeze swept down the concrete avenue, carrying the faint scent of rain. And on a street lamp above the rushing crowds, a single sparrow was resting. Watching the world below, Elias smiled. He closed his eyes and let a quiet thanksgiving rise from his chest. "You are still here," he thought. "You are watching over them all, even when they do not see you." Later that afternoon, Elias stood before his class of young, ambitious botany students. They had their notebooks open, ready to write down formulas, classifications, and dry facts. They looked just as tired and pressured as Elias had felt only weeks ago. Elias closed his textbook. He looked at the young faces before him, feeling a deep, fatherly compassion for their weariness. "Before we begin our lecture today," Elias said softly, his voice carrying a weight and a warmth that made the entire room fall entirely silent. "I want to ask you 3 simple questions, and I want you to answer them honestly in your own hearts." He stepped out from behind the podium. "First," he began, "have you been moving too fast lately too? Notice the beauty that has been placed around you? Have you been too fast to feel the morning air? Too fast to see the light? Too fast to let your soul breathe?" He paused, letting the words sink into their tired minds. We do not lose wonder because the world stopped being miraculous. We lose wonder because our hurry makes us blind. A few students slowly put their pens down. "Second," Elias continued, "what part of nature most easily reminds you that there is something greater than your current stress? Is it the sky? The sound of rain? A quiet tree holding its ground in the city wind? A bird singing before the traffic begins?" He smiled gently. "Pay attention to that. It is not an accident. It is a gentle mercy calling your heart back to a place of peace." Elias walked to the window, gesturing to the sky outside. And finally, if the Creator placed so much impossible detail, such profound wisdom, and such delicate care into a single leaf on a tree, or a single feather on a sparrow, what does that say about the value of your life today? He looked back at his students. Several of them had tears welling in their eyes, the heavy armor of their daily anxieties suddenly pierced by the truth of his words. If the Maker of all things did not design the world with random indifference, then you cannot be meaningless, Elias finished, his voice steady and full of profound conviction. Your life is not an afterthought. Your tears are not unseen. Your days are not beneath notice. You are seen, you are known, and you are deeply, deeply valued. The bell rang, but no one moved to pack their bags. They sat in the quiet, holy hush of a truth that had just changed the atmosphere of the room. Elias smiled. That is all for today. Before you go home this afternoon, step outside. Look up. Notice one beautiful thing that was made for you, and let it turn into gratitude. Have a wonderful day. As the students filed out, completely changed by the perspective of a man who had found his sight, Elias looked out the window one last time. He watched a cloud drift lazily across the blue expanse. He wasn't just observing weather anymore. He was looking at a masterpiece, and he was walking hand in hand with the artist. His soul was no longer weary. His heart was full, and his life had become, in every quiet and ordinary moment, a living, breathing song of praise.